Welcome back to the Marvel Movie Minute, a daily podcast in which we assemble to explore the films of the Marvel Cinematic Universe 1 minute at a time. In this, our 6th season, we are looking at The Avengers. I'm Andy Nelson from the Next Real Film Podcast.
And I'm Pete Wright. I can't talk right now. I've got to go to some press. There's public awareness. I got to do some press.
Today, we're talking about Minute 25, which begins with more me and ends with a tap on the chest. Joining us on the show today, we have James Anderson and Colin Parker from Timeline Scavengers. Hello, gents.
Hey.
Hello.
Hey.
How are you?
Wonderful.
Hardest working guys in time right here.
I like that.
I like that a lot. That's got to be a T-shirt or something. Yeah.
I'm gonna get that on a business card right now.
Yeah,
right
put that on a shirt. Yeah.
Listen, I would love to start this off, if you will, before we get to any kind of clips.
Oh, okay.
Oh, business.
God, that big Colin energy is coming in strong.
Here we go.
Yeah, no. It's just simply, I want to do this before I forget. I will not reveal my source, but I will say that I have received an email that says, hey, Marvel Movie Minute is doing the blank was in the Mentalist bit. So I wanted to say that I appreciate the email from the person. I don't think it's taking a bit. What I like to see this as is I love the idea that this is.
Well, let's check the claim before we.
Well, okay. What I was going to say simply was that I love that like all the Marvel shows are getting in on the ground floor on the Mentalist universe, being a part of the MCU.
I don't even know what to do with how we're being called out right now. I don't know how to rationalize it in my worldview, but I also celebrate the Mentalist universe.
There we go. Yeah.
And appreciate that. And for any infraction that we have done to you or this listener.
No. I want to be clear.
Is for everyone.
I don't think it's an infraction. That's exactly what I thought. I was like, no, this is good news. That means we have more people to potentially talk to when we start our Mentalist Cinematic Universe podcast.
Oh, yeah. The Mentalist. You could Timeline Scavengers the Mentalist. There's lots of flashbacks in that one.
There certainly are. Good Lord.
I'll get to work on
There's definitely a lot of flashbacks to the same scene, too. So you could just cover it once and then be good for about...
lots of time.
But you got to cover it, each time from the different character's perspective. You got to talk about it from...
Yeah.
We're walking in the door again. This week we have as our guests... Gonna see what's on the wall. Bet we all know what it is.
Oh man! Wow.
But I like what you said there, though, James, about walking in the door, because I'll help pull us back into the real show here after I did my bit, because I just want to say I was excited that it has made that it is traversing the sound waves. Maybe this will help them bring back the Mentalist. I think that's my end goal. But
I had no idea. I feel like we're part of the lobbying arm of the Mentalist.
Whether you like it or not, you're now a source, a cited source.
You didn't have to tell us; we just knew.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, okay, so bringing it back, we're talking about doorways and everything, but I am curious because this is a minute that you two picked to come here, and what is it specifically about this minute that drew you in? Is it?
I'll field this question.
Okay, yes.
Yeah, I love this. This is good.
So
going back to the Mentalist,
here's I read your tells and So here's the process. We get the email. Time to pick the Avengers minutes. We're splitting it up this time. Hey, Colin, are there any minutes you want? Yeah, I want this one and I want that one. Great. And we throw the rest into a random number generator because that's how I live my life.
Wow.
Outstanding.
Exactly, yeah.
So you've given zero thought to why this minute is the most. I get it. Okay. All right.
Well,
excellent.
that also means this was not one that Colin picked. So this is not
correct.
A specific
you'll know
Colin
it's
minute.
the most iconic. We got it on the ground floor for the most.
So a particular pose of a certain group of people toward the end of the film might be something that you might have picked. Okay.
We might have Colin and James back on the show.
Who knows?
Okay.
But who knows?
All right.
Our listeners now know they can expect these two back.
Right, yeah. Unless I burn my mentalist bridge now. But actually, what's funny though is the random number generator did me good because this is within the I guess there's only 30 seconds maybe right before this with Tony Stark in it. This is basically
right.
like the first full minute of Tony Stark in the Avengers, and I have to say that I think Marvel's Iron Man suit designs peaked right here.
Oh.
The Iron Man 2 and early part of Avengers film, Mark 6 suit with the triangle shape in it.
That's your favorite?
Yeah. The Endgame and Infinity War suits, they get a little, because he's doing the nanotech thing, it gets too, human body shaped. For me,
it's like you can see sinew in the place.
And
you like it a little bulkier.
Yeah.
The sense that it's an actual thing that is going on to a person.
Correct. Yeah. I mean, don't get me wrong. I do think it's cool and love the idea of the suits that can kind of form from anywhere kind of situation. But even if he's going to nanotech it, I wish it would still have the slight chunky feeling to it. Because it almost feels like he's in just iron flesh.
Oh.
In those last two movies, and it's a little uncomfortable.
Kind of paints a different picture.
They were going to call it Iron Flesh, but
yeah.
But that was already taken. But I do agree with you because why, once you get to those movies, what's the difference between Iron Man's suit and the Spider-Man suit, the Tom Holland Spider-Man suit, right? It's all, freaking everybody's nanotech. We all wear our uniforms in a ring like Green Lantern. Why does it even matter anymore? So
except for Pepper.
Except for Pepper, right?
She doesn't need that yet.
Right.
I don't know why, but that's a weirard thing.
For me, it's Mark 1 or nothing. I just think it's all downhill from when they left the cave.
Yeah.
Left the cave.
I don't know. It's tough because it's cool that we made suits that didn't require a full on walking monologue to put on. Because I'll tell you.
Yeah.
Although Aaron Sorkin's Iron Man.
Yeah, that's true. We have talked a lot about
there's some walk and talks that are
wanting a West Wing of the Marvel world.
Yeah.
That would be good.
Just slow nanotexture just sort of absorbs over 5 minutes in a hallway.
Avengers West Coast West Wing.
And then Hulk says bruh for some reason. You're like, why is this happening?
Anyway, so this one, the walk and talk on the path, is cool.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. It is very cool.
Oh, for sure. This rules.
The walk and talk on the path. I definitely want to talk about the car wash. Before we get to the car wash, though, let's talk a little bit because we're coming in on this conversation between Tony and Pepper. At the end of our last minute, he says that it looks like Christmas, and the punchline to it. I mean, it's cute that he says Christmas, and knowing that we're going to have a Christmas themed Iron Man 3.
Right.
It's all kind of cute, but the punchline is at the start of this one, and it just is so self-centered, perfect Tony, the way that it plays. And I love the way that it's written where we get that, but with more me. And Tony is so self-centered, and these lines that come out of his mouth, sometimes you just can't believe that someone would actually say these sorts of things, because there are certain, political figures who say things like this sometimes, and I just want to punch them. But this one, it comes across so genuinely funny that I find that it works so exceptionally well, the way that these things play out. I mean, how does this written version of Tony work for you? Because this is the first time we've seen him under a different writer-director's hands.
I think that this, and then my favorite line in the scene, oh yes, because I was directly involved. If you and I are thinking of the same political figures, he has a deep ore of good works, and he thinks about other people. Even if he's I rule, it's sort of I rule and let me shower that on other people. The generosity I give myself, it's almost like extreme self-care. And I think that that's a pretty naive and wild take to say, but when he's more me, he's not more me and I'm the only one. It's an ego And so it gives him the confidence to help other people.
Okay, so it's really clear that I don't think we're all talking about Margaret Thatcher. So I'm way off base. But I do think it's important to add on to that 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 the other bit of context that matters is who he's talking to.
For sure.
That this bit of bravado given to Pepper, as played by Gwyneth Paltrow, who it looks like knows she's in this movie, is actually, I think, really sweet because you get the feeling that he can go out there and say these things, but is grounded by her, and that is important. So I think it's super smart banter for them.
Yeah, I was going to say the kind of the similar thing, which is that like it's definitely always about who he's talking to for sure, because like in this moment, it is very clearly like this is banter, like I'm being silly, like I am aware of like what the split is or whatever, or even if it is like because he does all of the math and stuff like that, but she sort of sees like the overall like logistics of it. We all understand what the actual percentage of that is, but you would like respectfully say 50-50, but because he's like, oh, I'm gonna do like the nudge, like, because I can mess with you, I'll just say it's mostly me, but it's very much like on what James is saying too, right? Because like, I think that oftentimes when he says these things, it is almost actually kind of like a slight self-deprecation thing as well in a way. Cause it's like, he's almost overdoing it, but he does it like with a smile, like a fun little grin, like, ooh, I'm getting away with something. Like I'm silly. Yeah. I'm a silly little goose. Right. Like the way that he says it, but like when someone like,
if only he had said that too.
Yeah. But like when you've got like,
aren't I just a silly little goose?
Yeah. When you've got trumpet and you've got, elongated muskrat, like they're out there and they're painting themselves up as if they are actually, the greatest thing that's ever walked this planet, and you should actually be thanking them for these things. But like, they're not doing anything because they care about other people. They're only doing it to protect their own self things where, he's actually, trying to do things better for other people. I mean, I know this is way in advance, but like a good example of this is every single thing that like went wrong with former suits of his, he inputs into the next suit, not just for him, but for other people. Like the Spider-Man Homecoming suit, like when he is like actively learning about the different things in that suit, every single thing where he learns about new capabilities or like safety tools are all specifically because of things that happened to him and was like, I don't want that happening to this kid. So like he is always protecting and putting a suit of armor around more than just himself.
Well, as he will eventually say, the world, right?
Correct,
I mean, that's kind of his thing is how can I constantly be evolving to protect everybody?
All right, dude, spoilers.
I was going to say that he's not trying to convince other people. He's not trying, like, I feel like when certain people get on certain social media apps and talk a big game, it feels like they're trying to convince people of their greatness. And I was going to say that Tony's not trying to convince anyone of his greatness, and that's not true. He's trying to convince himself of his greatness because he's dealing with all of the self-deprecation I think that Colin is talking about comes from him being like, he's almost pep talking himself. And in this case, he's doing it via flirtation. But if you'll notice in this scene, he smoothly transitions into complimenting her and telling her that she is the center of this. She's the genius.
Yeah, right.
Well, and because when you think about that, there is no part of Iron Man's story in the MCU that has demonstrated Tony is capable of doing anything by himself. Everything that he's done has been in some sort of partnership with Pepper. He goes into his long sort of tech benders in his basement, but all of that is enabled by his relationship with Pepper, who manages the rest of his life. And I think that this is just the ultimate sort of continuation of that relationship, of him being effectively less than in many ways, and her making up for those pieces because she is so much more than in those ways.
And it's an important step in, I guess, the continued evolution of not just their working life, but their romantic life. And we're getting that here because it's both. We're really seeing the relationship between the two as a couple, but then also there's like a work element to all of this and the whole conversation that plays in really nicely.
And there's an evolution in it too, I think, because I was actually thinking a little bit as Pete was mentioning part of like how he talks here, kind of specifically. It's like also, and sorry, two other people because of these things. Like he, I think, used to definitely be kind of on his own. And maybe there were obviously people who were supporting him, but very much the billionaire life of like, I'm the one that did this, despite all the work of others that helped make his stuff come true. But like, I think that he may have actually at one point fully believed I am awesome. Maybe being kind of like those politicians that we mentioned. And then after that bomb hit in Iron Man 1, things changed.
One look.
I mean, that's exactly what it is. And I think that the Pepper combo thing with him, I think also became kind of not a crutch, but I don't know what the word for it would be, but like a thing that became familiar and needed because that's what he had in the cave.
Interesting.
And I think that after he lost that connection, he kind of like the next person, but that he also knew that cared about him and that wanted him to live and succeed and stuff like that was Pepper. And then, I think that kind of his relationship with, and I'm blanking on his name all of a sudden.
Yinsen?
The guy Vincent, is that the guy in the cave?
Yinsen.
Yeah, Yinsen. Sorry, I don't know why I said Vincent. That was like very weirdly like coming over to Ellis Island version of me. But like but like his connection with him, I think he recognized that and was like, this is actually where I do my best work, and recognizing what he and Pepper have, and then, latching on. And he's kind of, as much as like we kind of, I think a lot of people will try and dunk on him sometimes on social media for weird reasons. I think he does show frequently, even in this clip, that he can also be very much a good boyfriend, because Agent Coulson, who I'm sure he doesn't want to deal with for many reasons, but specifically he's like, I'm trying to, mac on my girl in a second here. So I need him to not come up these steps, and they keep calling. And he's like, ignore the call, I'm out of the office.
Which is such a good relationship bit, too, because it's like he is such a teenager right here. And it's perfect. Like, you can tell he just wants to get busy, and he can't get busy because she's so mature.
You're right. Can someone explain really quick a line to me? Occasionally I have to get people to explain what something means because it just goes right over my head and I can't catch it. When he says, I'm not in, I'm actually out, what does that mean?
I wrote that down too. I think here's the way that I read it, and I wrote it down as a question to talk about because it was a strange line to say, and the fact that the line happens at the exact moment when the car wash takes his helmet off.
Yeah.
And so I was like, is he being cheeky about the fact that he's out of his, quote, work outfit now? And like he's now just going to be Tony Stark at the I'm at home. Like, I felt like it was written in a way where it's supposed to be like, I'm not at work anymore. I just took my tie off, like that sort of thing.
Yeah.
But also, there's something about the way that Robert Downey Jr. actually says the line that still throws me when he says it, because I'm like, what does he mean? Because it just comes out weird out of his mouth. And I don't know if it's written that way and he just was trying to figure out how to say it or what.
I think that this is one of those fun things where I think that he realizes how like clever he is, because he's saying more than one thing, in my opinion, at that moment. The way I view it is exactly what you said of like, I'm no longer in work mode. I'm now like, I'm out of the office. I'm at home, right? Even though technically he's in an office, but but like it's not.
Well, and he's still working.
Right.
Like their conversation is still all about work.
But
he's still
he doesn't have a good
outside,
work-life balance. But like, I think that the idea is that like, he's not out in the field. He's like back, but like, he's out of that part of the evening. Yeah, they're going to talk about it, but he knows that there's, like a little picnic thing and some champagne, like he's about to celebrate and stuff like that. But I also think that he fully has a little bit of the ego of like, oh, they still want me for this Avengers thing. And he's not in, he's out. Because he was told that he's not included. He's not wanted in that way. So he's like, I'm not. And then he goes, in fact, I'm out. Right? Like, you can't bother me. I'm not a part of this. I'm actually out.
That actually...
he's reiterating that he's not into the Avengers.
Right. and not
like
a part of their organization.
I think, I think that makes a lot more sense in context of the way he says it.
It makes sense, but I still think, even with that intention, his line reading of it is weird. His line reading of this reads to me like, I get what you want me to say, director, but the way you're telling me to say it doesn't make sense to me. And that conflict between the two of them was never resolved and ends up just coming out like weird mash of intention, and it's not clear. I think this is a great example of just line readings gone wrong. Even if I take as granted exactly what you just said, because now I'm with these other guys. That makes total sense. It makes total sense as something he would say, just not the way he said it to my ear.
The way I heard it was like, no, don't tell him I'm not in. That's a passive way of saying I'm actually out. I'm not in. Like, that's like, okay, but he's really in. He's just not in. I'm actually out. Like, intensify to a more assertive sort of active voice of the verb. But from now on, I agree that it's a weird line delivery, and he kind of has a little smirk on his face that it's not. Speaking of someone who says things that are not as clever as I think, it does. He's not saying something that has earned that smirk. I will now forever be like, he's saying,
I'm actually out.
Why are they still calling? I'm not going to be in the Avengers.
I'm actually out.
Out.
I mean, it still bugs me that it happens at the exact moment that the machine is taking his helmet off, because then he says, I'm actually out. Like, oh, it just took my helmet off. I'm actually out.
It's like a visual effects hat on a hat. Like, it's not. It's exactly. Too much. It's too much.
Yeah.
I do love the concept though of him telling Jarvis to tell Coulson that he's out. Which if Jarvis tells him the way that Jarvis might infer here of saying like he's out, like he's not home. But like, because Coulson is, spoiler alert, he's about to like be there, like at the door. I love the concept of him being on the ground floor, getting ready to go in, looking up and watching him fly over him, and then to land in the building and say, "I'm out." And he's like, "Well, no, I know you're home, so okay, I'm coming up, I guess." I love that idea of like him watching him and going, "All right, time to go in."
Yeah, right.
For sure.
That's actually really funny. And it would have been really funny because as he's flying up, so just geographically, I've never really paid attention that closely to the shot of the street view where we're on the road and we're like right in front of Grand Central Station. We see Pershing Square right there and the Chrysler Building's there. And he kind of flies up that curved channel up to the top and where you can see the Chrysler Building, the Empire State Building. Like it's fantastically constructed. But now I kind of wish that there was a little tiny Easter egg in that street view shot where we could actually see Coulson. Like if you're paying attention, you could see Coulson on his phone as he's like walking across, like to go inside. That would have been such a fun little nugget to throw in there you only notice if you really are really paying attention.
Yeah.
I just have to say, because we spent a half hour talking about the MetLife building last minute, I just feel like I just want to call out at second 7 in this minute how cool it is to see the shell of the MetLife building down below and the Stark erupting out from the middle of it. It's such great design, and this is a hero angle for that production design of the building.
For sure.
It's just great.
And it's a great little touch also, like once we cut to the high shot looking down that channel, kind of the curved channel, how you can still see like construction cranes and stuff. And so it's really nice touches. I mean, we know he's just connecting the power or disconnecting it from the grid and connecting it to this arc reactor. But the fact that it still is in construction, like there are a lot of little nods to this that you just don't notice because all of this is happening in milliseconds.
Yeah.
But it's really nice when you're actually paying attention to see the detail that the visual effects team put in here. I really enjoyed kind of scrubbing through these two shots as he's flying up to the top of the tower, just to see the detail. It's just a lot of great stuff.
For sure.
Well, the shot. So I know you want to talk about the car wash because apparently those are words we really like saying. But the other one that I love is actually as he's walking along it, when you get the wide shot from the helicopter shot, and you see Stark and the helicopter pad, and he's walking along with the machinery walking along him. To see that in place of the city is another just expertly gorgeous shot that kind of works as a trio of these things to set us in place. I think it's brilliant.
Absolutely.
Well, and the penthouse too. You can see through the windows and actually see like the dining table, and I mean, again, it's stuff that you're probably not necessarily going to notice because it is happening so quickly. But just the fact that they have the detail there, the only thing we really don't get to see in that shot is little Pepper standing back there, but she's out of view. But still, it's just so nicely constructed. The way that they designed the top of this building, I think, is just spectacular. And these few shots that we get that are all like a second long really celebrate the work that the team put together in designing this.
And I'm not saying that Marvel like frequently misses, to be clear, but what I am saying is that like I think there's a lot of stuff that is maybe just like they're very good at making certain things subtle so you don't recognize, certain design changes or design. I don't know what the word for it is. It just, I feel like they're very good at making a lot of things look natural at times. But like when they want to like hit like a like perfectly crafted space or scene, I feel like they knock it out of the park like every time. There are very few spaces where I feel like they are ever like, isn't this like room or space or whatever neat? Where I'm like, okay.
Fine.
It's all right. I feel like anytime they are like, hey, you're going to love this. I'm like, oh, you're right. I do, actually. And I feel like this is a good example of that because like they, really are setting up, even in this moment, they are setting up a space that is way more important than I think they even recognized in that moment because it's going to play such a larger role in so many other future things, and I think that's neat to see it like being crafted in that moment where it's like still slightly under construction.
And to your point, if they are making changes from one film to the next, it's nothing that's overt or huge. It all is subtle and it all ends up making sense. It's not like watching Hogwarts change from movie to movie where it's like this whole thing. I mean, I know it changes around from floor to floor, but geez, like the entire thing doesn't.
Magic.
It was the first time I've ever been like, that's not where that fictional building is. I've never like before and since I've never had the experience of watching the third movie and being like, no, what is happening here? No, this is not right.
Yeah.
What do you go? What is this hill?
There's a moment like that at the end of like I think it's the sixth movie going to the seventh, maybe, of Harry Potter, where like it's just like, and this is literally just like an item, but it's such a huge moment where you go, there was, I feel like just no quality control in some of those, functions. Or they just had different teams, I guess, to make it happen quickly. So it's wild to me, like watching them be like, hey, here's his wand on the desk, but we already buried him. And then suddenly in the next film, it's magically in his coffin with him. And you're like, all right, sure, whatever. So it's like, I guess we'll just accept that you just, exactly. That's fair. As we like to say that if something, Howard Stark is the reason why something happens early in Harry Potter, I guess you could say it's magic, and you're like,
magic, exactly.
The building doesn't change that much. They have just magic contractors there 24/7, like, ooh, gonna mess you with your classroom schedule or whatever. Classroom layout.
Yes.
Your classroom schedule. That was a big point.
Yeah. I was like almost at the finish line of that joke and I just fell flat on my face. That's so embarrassing.
And then I kicked your body.
I just the last point on this, and then we can talk in great detail about slidey metal computer things. But the last point I want to make about this is how like no one gets a hero introduction like Tony, right?
Yeah.
This is dope. Cap is hitting a heavy bag, and he gets some witty banter,
and he's very emotional too.
And he's very emotional. He's so sad. Like there's nobody gets a hero introduction like this. Even though Black Widow gets a dope fight, like that's a crazy awesome fight. But this is royalty right here, right? This is a parade of elegance. Is what we get here. Is you can almost imagine a fugue, dun da 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 da, as he's walking down this thing, and I think that says a lot about what the MCU thinks of Tony and ultimately what they did with him over the course of 23 movies.
It's a rock star entrance.
Yeah. I think it also fits their personalities too, though. Like Cap is very much like, he wants to be quiet about things. He's like, it's kind of like the, just doing my job, like little salute. And like, I'm just like, this is what I'm here to do, right? And Tony is like, I'm here to showboat what's going on. Let me pump some AC/DC into the sound system, you know.
Love Led Zeppelin.
And Thor, I would say Thor probably is the only other person that ever has as flashy of entrances.
Right,
like the two
he's
of them
also
are
royalty.
That's a good point. Yeah,
yeah.
but like,
He's walking. We meet him walking into his coronation, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
and so it's like
it's a pretty big.
You get that. You get the like Infinity War introduction. You get honestly the Ragnarok introduction. Pretty much any time Thor is introduced into a series or a project or whatever, his entry is like the Asgardian version of Tony Stark's entrance, I feel like.
Yes.
You know?
I think that's totally
everyone in
fair.
Asgard wished that was reversed, but okay.
Yeah.
But so what's so interesting
good
about
point.
that is in this movie, right? The entrance that I don't think you're going to be talking about, but Thor's entrance in this movie is vastly subdued compared to his other entrances.
Mhm.
It's an action entrance.
He's a very angry. Yeah, he's a very intent entrance in this particular film.
Yeah, you're right. Because in this one, it's not as like, you know, hey, like I'm here to, you know, to like have a good time in a fight, but it is still like, you know, it is kind of what you were talking about with like, it is still like it's subdued, but it's like such a large, I feel like, entrance because it's like the stakes are hefty in that moment, you know, and I love that because then you get again like the people like Bruce Banner and Hawkeye who are just sort of like, I'm good with like being in the background
and the rest.
Yeah, right.
At all.
Yeah.
Here on Gilligan's Island. I got you, yeah.
Here we are. Well, let's talk about this car wash thing. So we got this contraption, and they started calling it the car wash because apparently there is a script where it was described as a car wash. I haven't found that in the script. I have two scripts. One of them says, Iron Man lands on the landing pad of the tower and walks along a walkway, robotic arms deconstructing his armor. And the other says, Tony arrives at his skyscraper penthouse and is in the process of taking off his Iron Man suit through a high-tech gauntlet of gadgets.
Ooh.
I like Gauntlet of Gadgets. There's a nice kind of flow there. But at some point, it was described as a car wash. And so everybody, all the people who worked on this whole thing, and I think ILM had a big part of the effects of it, they basically started calling it the car wash and trying to figure out the way that it worked and everything. And I find it to be like the next, like perfect level of Tony's technological advancements, the way that he's designed this thing. And we saw him doing it already in the first Iron Man when he builds the whole machine coming out of his floor to kind of put the suit on and everything. I mean, it was fantastic. And this is that next step where he can do it while he's walking. And I don't know, it's really fun to watch. I still marvel at the fact that his hair is so perfectly coiffed. His clothing is not ripped. There's no wrinkles. Like that, I don't understand that at all. I guess I just don't care because it just looks so cool. Right.
I think that is like that's got to be, again, somehow a Tony Stark tech thing where it's like he has to come out looking perfect because for sure we've had people like, you know, Cap and some of that take off the helmet and the hair's a little disheveled. So they have to do like the hand through the hair to kind of smooth it out. But like, I love that, like, again, kind of like the royalty thing. If anyone's going to come out of a costume looking just mwah, it's going to be Tony Stark. He's like, I've got to look fresh when I walk out. Come on.
Yeah.
It's who I am.
What you guys don't know is that his hair was actually replaced with carbon fiber. So it's fine.
Nanotech. I love that.
Yeah. That's actually how the helmet stays on. It just weaves into his carbon fiber.
They watched Scrubs and did the hair met.
Frighteningly disturbing.
Yeah.
I think that this is a cool. It's a cool thing to watch the progress of you know, like you said, his technology. Because in the comics, it's really fun to watch him be like, boy, in that fight, I sure did. He used to have to like recharge, like plug in his suit, and like so many times he almost died because basically his defibrillator was shorting out because whatever. That then. At some point, just randomly, you know, we got to go fight whoever. Oh, also, I put like thermocouples in my suit, so when people shoot heat at me, it charges my suit up. Anyways, let's go. And like he kept doing these things, he put roller skates in because why wouldn't you?
Right.
And like
Should have been first.
That was the best. That was the best.
Yeah, so I think that it's
so
fun to-
70s, but God, would that have been great to have continued with.
they kept being really crucial in his
So funny.
hero life. But I think it's cool to see that reflected here in these movies.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, the progression of how they put the suit on him is pretty tight, actually. To go from he has to stand still and he has to be perfectly in line for the whole thing to go on, then to he can put it on and walk and vice versa. Then to the I guess technically moving backwards a little bit, I forgot about the temporary suit, technically, like the suitcase one, which kind of unravels, but like it's not nearly as like strong or
much
good
lighter.
Right.
For the Iron Man on the go.
Right, exactly. It's Iron Man light, Diet Iron Man maybe.
Tin Man.
Yeah, but like to have like the walking suit, then the one where he has the little bangles on, where it can like find him and attach, and then the one where it's like with like a chip inside of him to find him from anywhere. It doesn't have to line up with a bracelet specifically. Then to like nanotech, like it's cool to watch. Like, again, the concept of like he's always tinkering is such a like, you were talking earlier about how like he just wants to get busy. But like it's funny because in my head I was like, what's funny is that like in a way the man is kind of always looking to get busy. It's just which version is he looking for in that moment,
Oh yeah.
Right, and because even in their conversation, there's a lot of romance and flirting in their conversation that they have when they go inside, but at the same time, they are still talking about work, and it's all very cute and everything, but they're talking about the arc reactor and the power levels and everything, and so there is that level of that constant, like, which direction am I being pulled in at any particular moment, and so,
right,
well.
Yeah.
Well, they are talking about this giant energetic erection that they have created in the form of the Stark Tower, the tower. So, just so I get
that you just had to get that one in there, didn't you?
Yeah.
Yes. The giant erection in the middle of the city. Yep. Mm-hmm. All right. Well, I think this is a good place to wrap up. It's a very fun minute. We're thrilled to have had the two of you back to join us, and we are certainly looking forward to future minutes. We know one of them, and we're looking forward to that conversation. So tell everybody about Timeline Scavengers and where they can track you and your shows down.
So if you want to follow the show, you can follow us on Twitter at Timeline Scav. That's where we post all of our updates whenever episodes go live, which currently at the time that we recorded this, we're still Monday, Wednesday, Friday. I imagine that's where we'll be at the very least for all of this year. Who knows if we'll go up or down? Who knows? As life gets busier or whatever. But Monday, Wednesday, Friday. And it is a MCU podcast that assembles the timeline in historical order, scene by scene, or sometimes day by day, until the end of time. At the time of recording, we have just finished recording Agent Carter and are starting through basically everything of origin stories, essentially, for the most part, for the next year and a half. That's pretty much all we're dealing with.
Plus Captain Marvel.
I was going to say, well, that's also an origin story, But and then also the rest of the story. But I mean, what I'm saying is most of what we're recording.
The parents are fighting, Andy.
Listen,
Stay out of the line,
I know what I said, and I'm going to stick to it. So yeah, that's where you can find that show. You can also go to scavengersnetwork.com to listen to an episode or to the other shows that James and I do outside of Timeline Scavengers as well.
Awesome. Well, we will have those links in the show notes. And remember, if you're not seeing the show notes in your podcatcher, just go to our website, marvelmovieminute.com. You can see all of the links there and learn more about our membership program if you're interested in learning about that. So thank you both so much for joining us today. We're certainly looking forward to future conversations. Absolutely. And Pete, thank you.
Oh, Andy, tomorrow, Coulson's at the top of Stark's erection.
Oh.
Until next time, true believers, if you come back.
Marvel Movie Minute is a production of True Story FM, engineering by Andy Nelson. This season's music is Message to the World by Anthony Vega, and this season's show art is by Winston Yabo. Find the show at truestory.fm. If your podcast app allows ratings and reviews, please consider doing that for our show.
That's my fan fiction.
It's so nice to not be the one.
Nice.
Oh,
Nice.
wow.
Nice.
That's a place to take it for sure.
Had some really good ones this season so far.
Oh my God.